Jeff Van Gundy was fired recently from ESPN. To me, it was a really shocking firing because I actually thought Jeff Van Gundy did a good job for many years while he was in that role. I didn't always agree with what he had to say, but for the most part, I thought he was good. And the way I define good is that can I listen to you throughout a game without wanting to put you on mute? And for the most part, Van Gundy passed that test most of the time when I watched whatever games he was doing color commentary for. So Chris Russo just recently said some stuff about the Van Gundy firing that I want to read out these quotes from him. He's also known as Mad Dog, but anyways, I'm going to read them out right now. I can't fathom the idea that ESPN in these layoffs would fire Jeff Van Gundy, Russo said on his Sirius XM podcast. You're not going to convince me that ESPN woke up in the last 2 weeks, looked at the budget sheet, and said, we've got to fire Van Gundy because we got to save some money. If that's the case, fire Mark Jackson. ESPN will never admit it. They are going to say it's our call. Nonsense. Why would they get rid of a great team? That team is a great team with Mike Breen. You're not going to convince me that team that everybody likes, nobody doesn't like that team. And here's some more stuff he said. That leads me to the conclusion that someone in the league office must have told ESPN, I want Van Gundy out. We all know he's biting. We all know he gets on the officials. We all know he doesn't hold back with his opinions. So if you're asking me, little talk show host who may not know a thing, this is just my opinion. Silver is the one who fired Van Gundy. Silver told ESPN, I want him out. So this is an interesting conspiracy theory by Chris. At first, I didn't take it seriously because I was wondering why would they fire Van Gundy, and then I thought for a while, like, what was he really outspoken about that would get him fired? And Chris, like he just pointed out, said it was always him bashing the refs, which I agree with Jeff Van Gundy on it. The NBA refs are some of the worst refs that I've seen in all professional sports. They're very terrible. But the league has always tried to promote this idea that the refs are infallible, that they're great, they're the best of the best. They don't ever make mistakes. If they do, it's like hardly ever, and that people should not be concerned about the refs, and you should never talk about the refs. You should just stay away from them. That just any criticism of the refs will not be tolerated. The NBA has always had that type of mentality, I've noticed over the years. David Stern was more upfront about it. I felt that he would just be blunt about it. When people would ask about the refs, he would go at them like an aggressive shark to shut them down. I feel Adam Silver may have the same stance as Stern has about people criticizing the refs, but he tends to be very passive aggressive. So I could definitely see behind the scenes that he probably didn't like the stuff Van Gundy said about the refs, in the sense that it highlights that they're incompetent, and it's also a bad look for the league when you point out how bad the refs are. It could hurt with ratings down the line. You can get people to not take the NBA seriously as a product. So I could definitely see why you would get rid of Van Gundy. Granted, I don't agree with it because I liked Van Gundy calling out these refs, but it shows you again the NBA doesn't really care about the refs getting better. They don't care about having accountability among the refs. They're fine with these refs for the most part because they know these refs are not going to most likely screw it up when it comes to their golden teams, or like the teams that they want to win, basically. That's my nickname for it. That most of the time these refs, if you watch these games, and I'm not being a conspiracy theorist, but if you watch these games, you will see how these refs tend to not make calls that screws over the teams that are loved by the media, that are the media darlings of the league. It's very rare they screw up big time when it comes to those teams. So I think there's a lot to do with these refs not being good, being corrupt. I do think they have biases. That doesn't mean that if you're not one of the favorite teams in the league by the media or by the league that you cannot win. It just means that certain teams get preferential treatment and that you have to find ways to overcome it. That's the way I look at it. But I think Van Gundy was starting to highlight this type of stuff by his criticism of the refs in and the league didn't want it. So that's why allegedly they got rid of Van Gundy. Grant, I don't know if it's true, but it wouldn't surprise me. So that's all I have to say about it.